Studio A was a kind of the basement. It was a whole house, beginning of the Motown. Also where I lived, whilst I was in Detroit for 2 months, Studio A was the beginning point, cellar, the guttural point, as they always said, and then the attic was always the soul. These kind of ideas that people had, perhaps like the poetics of space, this idea of kind of a building occupying it, creativity. So Motown Museum kind of exhibited Studio A. Studio A was basically, in its time, a revolution where it was like 24/7 for almost 25 years, open, everywhere to come in, and that was the kind of revolution, the beginning of kind of Motown music and Detroit music, basically, springboard. And I liked the idea of having a kind of a studio where, and for the biennial, I wasn't just going to be there and then leave, but I was going to create the skeleton, the structures, the walls, the slides, the vocabulary, and then occupy the space. Well, I was interested in, for example, the idea of that these walls, everything will move around for the duration, so everything's mobile. At the same time, everything's fleeting. And I like the idea of kind of analogy of a city of Detroit where everything was occupied in the 50s, you have these kind of prefab walls, like Buckminster Fuller's kind of the Dymaxium house, these things that kind of they developed from World War II, this kind of idea of economy, these kind of mobile existences, you know, so you have these walls here that move around, but also you have this idea that these little kind of vacuums, little, you know, enclosures where you can occupy, little performances, little kind of renditions, writing, thinking, engaging with the public, or simply sitting and reading a magazine. And basically this idea of these walls, they shift around their roles. In one level you look from the outside, you're looking into an empty space that hasn't been occupied, that may be occupied, or from when you're sitting inside, you're looking out to the world that's out beyond. So it's kind of like a middle point analogy between what was occupied once, Detroit, the great city in the 50s and 60s, the boom, American dream, and now bang, the other side, empty, vacated, gone, which is my experience of Detroit, walking around for derelict buildings, train stations, office blocks. You walk in, you look through these little windows, you see fragments of a part of a bygone era left there, but at the same time when you look out the window you see the city, equally dead, equally architecturally in stature. So that's kind of the idea that I was working with these walls to move around. And they fold up and they get pushed aside when I'm done with them, you know. So you walk through a different collage of different sounds, from the domestic to the indoor, to the kind of Motown museum tour, to the streets in Detroit, to the casinos, which evolved, of course, from its disrepair as a city. You hear this kind of soundscape as I walk through, and as I perform monologues to these different answer phone messages, and then all the messages get collated. So the idea is that this is only the hub that gets totally connected, but it's very subliminal. So the public may only see the telephone and think, what the hell is that about? And they try to call their friends, and I just laugh and think, you know, it doesn't even work. And then afterwards, once I'm living here, working here, that is a key tool of dissemination, but very on a subliminal level. So that's kind of the idea of this. This is a rehearsal studio in a sense, but also it's like a whole film set. It's like a setting. You know, shifting the way in which one records and documents the cities that they live through. So if I'm in Detroit for 2 months, I trickled it all down from the objects that I had physically, that I photographed. I went to a skyscraper, basically one of the tallest hotels in America. It's in the Renaissance building where also RoboCop was shot, and kind of filmed this kind of these really apocalyptic-looking kind of sci-fi fiction building skyscrapers. I held each object and photographing, click, click, translating from the physical, the material object to the pictorial. Then the pictorial gets presented here. Then the pictorial, after 2 or 3 months, gets verbalized via answer phone messages. The archive is sent to San Francisco, the images to Berlin. But all these things no one needs to know, because basically that's my story, and this is only the skeleton for the story. These things get documented. This thing gets verbalized, recorded, disseminated, recorded again, answer phone, and then deleted, thrown away, bang. The walls, once this script has been performed a few times, folded up, placed in the corner, gone. And you come in the last day, it's empty, you just have like a little kind of snow dome in the middle. It could happen, but it could be the opposite. It could just be an overwhelming mess. I don't know.